to the Metapod podcast, the Pokemon podcast that revolves around the evolving meta and around the evolving world. Sean and I are on two different sides of the world right now. Jake, as you can tell, my background, I'm still living in my house in Kentucky. But Sean, for everyone listening and watching, it looks a little different. Where are you at right now?
I am in Japan. I was going to say Tokyo, but I'm not actually in Tokyo anymore. I am now in Osaka. So,
Sean actually got the world championship dates right. I'm just kidding.
I flew here too early. No.
Yeah, oh man.
Terrible news, everyone. No. I am just in Osaka traveling for vacation. If any of you, I guess you might have seen on our Twitter, I think I posted a video on the Twitter of me going to the Pokemon Center in one of the Pokemon centers in Tokyo. I also picked up a pretty sweet card, a Psyduck. You remember the screaming, those
You picked that one up?
Yeah, I bought the Psyduck.
I want the Rowlet one so bad.
But I never
picked it up, and then the prices spiked.
They had it there. I think the Rowlet's maybe like $80 or $90, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I missed out on it when it was like 15.
Yeah, the Pikachu one I want to say is like $1,100 or something crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably the Pikachu is the most expensive. Then probably I think there's an Eevee.
There is an Eevee, yeah.
And I'm trying to think. I would say like Rowlet's probably higher than Psyduck, but Psyduck's probably the cheapest one out of all of them.
Yeah, that's the one I picked up because A, Psyduck is adorable, and B.
Yeah, I mean it's a really cool looking card too. Like out of all of them, because Psyduck like always has the headaches and stuff, so it kind of like fits really well with the Pokemon in general.
Yeah, so I picked that up because I'm like, look, there's a lot of cards here that you could buy, but like for me. Like if I'm buying a single, I want to buy something that was exclusive to Japan that like I could get it in America if I buy it on eBay or whatever, but like I'm here. I'll buy it when I'm here, So that was my thinking.
That was like, yeah, I mean, when some listeners may know this person if they've been playing the game for a long time, Purple Cliff, Jack, when he went to Japan, he actually we coordinated. He bought me a Dream League booster. I mean, I paid him, but he bought me a Dream League booster box, and the purpose of it was so I could get the exclusive Dream League promo.
Oh, right,
that was
Lily.
Only released in Japan. Yeah, the Lily and Clefairy. It's one of my favorite cards that I own of all time.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's been crazy here. It's like. It's a lot of fun. There's so many Pokemon card stores. Pokemon cards are everywhere. There's like vending machines that you can like, the gotcha machines or claw machines where you can like win them. There's more Pokemon cards here than I know what to do with, Jake. And at the same time, it's very hard to just straight up buy a booster box at retail. Really hard.
Yeah.
So
this is a thing. I mean, if you watch OKJ Love on YouTube, we've talked about him several times on the podcast. Buddy of mine, he has talked extensively about how in the last like 6 months, collecting in Japan has become impossible in terms of money because retail has it's non-existent anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I did buy a V-Star box and a VMAX Climax box, a V-Star Universe and a VMAX Climax, which like those are fun. Like I might open them up when I get home. Yeah,
those are high class packs,
Right, and I was
those
actually
are the special sets.
I apparently was very lucky. The day I went to the Pokemon Center, they were just selling V-Star Universe packs. You could buy 5 per person, so I ended up buying 10, which was the equivalent of a booster box. And like Ethan and other people, and people are like, "Oh wow, that's actually really lucky." That they happened to have the high class at retail at a Pokemon Center that day, and I was like, oh, so
yeah. I mean, sometimes you just get lucky and they restock, in a reprint, Yeah. You just get lucky.
So, anyways, that's like some of the highlights, but we have a lot to talk about today. I don't know, Jake. I was actually thinking about when we should cut to the interview that I did with Ethan Hegyi. I think we should probably do that early in the pod, and then we'll do the news at the end.
Okay, you want to do it right now?
Yeah. Right now? So actually, we'll set it up. So I interviewed Ethan Hegyi. We're going to do a quick introduction of him in that interview. we're doing it on the fly, but I didn't have an outro or anything in the interview, so I'm like, okay, well, let's do that now, actually, I'm thinking. So we'll throw it over to that interview with Pokemon commentator and all-around cool dude player Ethan Hegyi, and catch you back here. As I'm sure y'all can see, I am with Ethan. How do you pronounce it? Hegyi?
Yeah, you got it.
Ethan Hegyi, okay. For those of you who don't know, but somehow listen to the podcast, that's amazing, one. And two, Ethan is a commentator for Pokemon. Absolutely awesome. We got some police action going on here. Very
Typical
popular.
day in Tokyo at this point, so.
Typical. But we're gonna do a quick walk and talk here for the pod. I met up with Ethan here in Tokyo. He has been gracious enough to walk me around multiple areas, including where we are now, which is Akihabara, or Akiba, as the pseudo locals would.
I would not consider myself a local. We're not at that level yet.
Yeah, not at that level, but yeah. I guess in terms of topics, I just wanted to get a little bit of your story of how you got into commentating Pokemon. I know you're still pretty young, especially relative to a lot of the commentators that you work with. So
the whole story. I got you. So
the whole story.
I had played competitively before for, we'll call it 3 years until the pandemic. So we got to about that point where it was so 2020, and then everything shut down in terms of events.
Yeah.
And then once COVID shut down and tournaments shut down, I went to build a PC and started creating content over on Twitch, which eventually turned into an understanding that there was a lack of competitive foundation in terms of tournaments being ran on a consistent basis. Limitless was running great 1,000-player tournaments, but those were happening once every couple of months. So I decided to not only organize those, but stream them on Twitch as a way to get more people to play and have a fun experience for those playing and for the other viewers as well. So that was the whole idea. What eventually that turned into was the tournaments getting bigger, and in turn having more and more people on to commentate. We're going to go over through this one here. And so pretty much what ended up happening was the tournaments went from about 16 people to 32 to 64 to we were getting upwards of 250 people coming and playing these tournaments, and we broadcast them, and then we started having better and better people in terms of community and reach. So we started having some semi-pro players and some pro players come on, and then I eventually got Kenny Wisdom, who was a caster for TPCI at the time, to come on and do a cast, and then from there other casters came on. I had Chip Ritchie come on, and it was never done with the intention to get a job as a commentator at Pokemon. It was just my way to essentially share my love for the game and do what I could to provide for the community. But lo and behold, on my 18th birthday, the day I turned 18, I got an email from Pokemon saying, we want you to start to work. They were waiting. They were like, oh, he's legal now. Let's pounce. So go for it. And yeah, from there, didn't really know what would happen, what my future would be in terms of commentary. I started out with Players Cup 3, so that was a virtual broadcast. It was a remote broadcast, and then Players Cup 4, and then a big break from that. And then EUIC last year was my first in-person event, and ever since then, I've been traveling all around doing different events. Did World Championships last year. Got to do some regional events this year. I was just in Australia a few weeks ago. Loving every minute of it, and loving the opportunity that I have to cast for the Pokemon Company and to be a voice for the Pokemon community.
Yeah, I mean, I know for myself, I remember the Heggies, the tournaments back in the before times. So not really during times, I guess, of COVID.
Yeah, the heat era of COVID.
Yeah. No, I think it was it's a very clear path for people that maybe knew you when you started doing that. So I will say, as a commentator, though, I know a lot of people have been very excited about you joining the commentary team. I think, obviously you have a knowledge and a skill set as a player that I think you bring a lot to the game from that perspective. Not to say that the other commentators don't.
Sure.
That's not what the implication is, but I just think that it's I think good to have somebody who's very fresh in the competitive scene, and obviously still actively playing, especially here in Japan. So Ethan obviously moved here to Japan about 6 or so months ago.
Yeah, in August I moved over.
Yeah, for school. Mm-hmm. And while you've been here, you've been playing in some of the city championships and the Is that what they're called? City championships?
City leagues, yeah, city league tournaments. That's what we've been playing in. So.
Okay. And how have you been doing?
I've been doing pretty well. My first one was top 8, and then I won my second one that I ended up going to, and then we don't talk about the last one that I went to. It's not great.
Okay.
The whole system in Japan is so wildly different, and I've talked about this on several different platforms. The best way I can describe it is there's very little room for error, and consistency is either extremely valued or extremely undervalued. So in the City League circuit, it's like a League Cup circuit, but you don't have the freedom to go to as many as you want. So you have to be consistent at the events that you go to. It's not like League Cups where you could bomb 2 and win 2, and it would
because there's not nearly as many events.
You're limited to 4 for the entire year. That's pretty much where you're
Yeah.
at in terms of what events you could do. We'll go over this
Yeah.
later.
And is that how, for Japanese players, like obviously in the rest of the world we have the CP system, but if a Japanese player wants to play in Worlds, which is happening in Japan this year, is that how they get into qualifiers? They have to like win one of these 4 events?
So it's your total points. So there is the point system similar, but it's not a hit a point threshold. It's a be ranked in relative of your points to everybody else's points. So it's not really a consistent number. There's like a general ballpark number for how many points you'll probably need to get something going. However, the thing is, it's not a guarantee at the end of the day. So that's sort of the. Here we go.
Swing down here.
We're good.
The lighting is just bright red, so I love it.
Yeah.
So would you say that system is more or less punishing than the CP? Because I know that there's a lot of people who level like valid complaints at the CP system.
Yeah.
I think with cups and challenges coming back, it's getting probably more fair. I don't know if it's like fully fair yet, but like,
Sure.
what do you think? Do you see as the downsides or maybe the upsides of the system here in Japan?
Well, at City Leagues, you've got to be extremely consistent. So I was in the running with a first place and a top 8, but as soon as I bombed my 3rd out of the 4th one that I had, I was out of the running, right? So
wow.
one bad showing means that my chance to go is essentially gone. And I would agree to the system of getting top 4 to Champions League, get your invite would be fair if everybody could play in every Champions League they went to, right? Because then you're not punished if you perform badly in one. However, the way that it works too is you have to be consistent in the fact that on average, I'm not lucky, so I haven't gone to any, but on average you get into one major event a year, whether that's Nationals or a Champions League. And that's your one shot. You've got to perform extremely well in that one event or you're done. You're out. It's not going to work anymore. So
Flip it around, going crazy here.
let's do it. We're rocking around. We're out here in Tokyo. You know how it is.
This is all real, unscripted. We have no idea where we're walking.
We're just walking
Ethan
around.
maybe knows. I have no clue. I'm just
I have a
following.
little bit of idea. We're having fun.
Following and trying to avoid cars.
I'll make sure you don't get it. Don't worry. I'll try. I'll do my best.
Yeah, so I guess like knowing that you only can compete in so many events and like basically one bad showing and you're out, that does feel very. Is that why there are so few Japanese players that typically go to Worlds?
Well, there's a lower amount than America in terms of like how many people are going to like be put into Worlds, but it also comes down to the fact that you don't see the same faces at Worlds every year, and those that you do are really like the truly skilled players. That they found a way, whatever their methods are, to be consistent and to get into Worlds through the various methods that there are. I mean, you've got to say like the system, even for some of the top players, they'd still probably find a way to get in if it was just that region alone, but it's really hard, especially now in Standard when there's so many variables. You've got to have an insanely good record these Champions Leagues. You've got to be 11-2 in best of 1 Swiss to have a chance to bubble in to top 16, where you have to play an additional 2 more top cuts elimination brackets against these 16 best players in the entire tournament to then get your day 1 invite, not even a day 2 invite for making top 4. So there's not a lot of room for error, and it also means that because of this extreme level of consistency that you need to have, it's hard to achieve, and it's very unlikely that you're one of those people to get in. 16 people in total to 20 people total through Champions Leagues, 40 people in through City Leagues, and 16 people through Nationals. That's going to be 70-something people in combination of day 1 and day 2. It's hard for you to cement yourself as that player every single year with how many different variables go into it.
Yeah. Okay, so knowing that the system is very different in how you achieve points, you kept talking about consistency, right? You mentioned best of 1. Obviously, something that most American players like to bring up when they talk about deck building, and you look at Japanese decks and you're like, yeah, but you can't really like rely on the Japanese deck because it's best of 1, and it's all just like, you know, who luck sacks into it or whatever. How much of that do you feel like is true, and how much of it do you think is like this common misconception?
It's like a case-per-case basis, but on average, if a deck performs well in best of one, it's probably going to perform good in 3 games that are similar to best of one. If anything, it would reward high-skill, high-roll decks less, which, in my opinion, if decks are performing well in Champions Leagues, they don't have the capacity to high-roll. The odds that a deck is high-roll and wins 12 out of 14 games consistently without being extremely heavily reliant on a crazy combo or a crazy draw that would otherwise mean if they don't hit it, they lose, is usually a good sign for a deck's consistency. I think, obviously, the bigger the tournament, the more seriously you have to take it. So for something like a City League, if you see some random Rapid Strike deck win with like Lugia V-Star, and you're like, wow, this is a crazy combo. I have no clue how this person won this. A lot less rounds, a lot less variability, a lot of things that you've also got to keep in mind. I do think some decks are a little bit better in terms of what performs well in best of one, what performs well in best of 3. Of course, you're never going to see any controlled decks played in best of 1 in Japan because it's a double game loss for if both players tie, and it means that there's essentially no incentive. Like, you will get slow played by somebody throughout the tournament to not win, so it's an issue.
That's I think the control. Sorry.
Yeah, we're good.
I think the control element. We can start walking. I don't know which direction to go.
Let's go this way. We'll walk around.
I think the control element is fascinating because I know that Jake, co-host of the pod, he likes control decks. I think that in terms of the Western world, control is, I think, an important archetype to support because it requires like skill on both players' parts to like win, to know what to play against. But like your point is here, like control is just not an archetype, it seems like.
Yeah, it makes me really wonder why they print the cards if they have a pretty good understanding that the cards are never going to be officially played in the capacity of the tournament structure. But
in Japan, yeah.
But besides that fact, I think it's important to note that some of the decks that are a little bit, the game is designed, I believe, for this format. So a lot of times we'll see some decks do better in terms of what's happening. So a great example of this is Lost Box right now is very much not a 3-game set. You cannot play 3 games of a Lost Box functioning versus something else in 50 minutes most of the time, unless one player breaks or something happens. But I will say Lost Box is perfect for best of 1. Games finish in around 20 to 25 minutes every time. They don't go over that, right? So what that means is it's just one game. It's nice and quick. It's good. It works out, and nobody has to worry about these games where the Lost Box player goes first. They win. Lugia goes first.
they
win game 2, and then you got 5 minutes
I guess we have a tie.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, what am I supposed to do, right? Like, I just lose here at this point. So, or I rather both players would just die. So.
Yeah. That kind of, it reminds me of those like Tina Tag decks a few years back. Like when people would bring those to best of 3 regionals, my whole thought was like, you're just committing yourself to not winning because you're going to get enough ties in this tournament that there is no way, like, unless you're, I don't know, Robin Schultz, and you can somehow make it to day 2 with 5 ties.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
I mean, that's the only person that I think has like done really well at a tournament with a deck. He played the Urshifu deck.
Yeah,
like, I don't know, 9 months ago they did really well.
That was a while ago, yeah. That's a flashback.
But yeah, okay, so bit of a difference here in Japan. Let's take a seat for a second.
Yeah, let's do it.
My arm.
No, if you want me to hold it, I can hold it for you as well.
I can do this. All right. So, all right, we've covered a little bit about Japan, commentating, all that stuff. I'm trying to think of other topics. Is there something I'm not asking that I should be asking?
Maybe as a little like preview to maybe some of the viewers coming over to Japan later on in the year for August.
Yeah.
I think it's important for an event like World Championships. I mean, the event gets bigger and bigger every year. We saw a huge jump in terms of Worlds in DC to Worlds in London was astronomical. It was a crazy jump in terms of the production quality, the quality of the broadcast. The stage was huge. The audience was huge. And I expect with the tendencies of TPCI that this event's going to be even bigger than the last one that we saw. So speaking of that, I think it's important to bring some hype and bring some excitement. I can't really stress enough like how excited I am for everybody to come over and experience this who can come over. Like if there's one trip you can go to, if there's one event you want to be at, it's World Championships, even when it was in the States.
Yeah.
Even more so now if you have the opportunity to. It is a great experience. It is a great way to have a vacation during the summer as well, to come over, explore through Japan, explore through the culture. You're going to love it. Anybody's going to love it. I mean, there's so much to do for any different people, right? And no matter what subculture that you're part of, But I think it's also important to maybe understand sort of some of the rule changes that have happened overseas so that you guys are ready. I think it's a great experience for anybody to play against somebody in a different language. I would say push yourself outside of your comfort zone to play against some players from Japan, some players that you're not going to have experience with. You can play with your local friends at your game store too. I think it's really cool to have that opportunity to play against some of these players that you're not going to be able to play against necessarily. And the way things are looking up, it's going to be a lot more similar. Sets are starting to get a little bit closer together now, it seems, at least on par, hopefully by August. And also, Japan had been using a self-cutting method for a while, where because of COVID and not touching decks, you split your deck into 3 piles and
you
adjust
say pick
cards.
which one is on top or whatever.
Yeah, but now they abolished that as of last week, so they're back to doing normal. You can shuffle your opponent's deck, you can cut your opponent's deck by hand. So things are getting closer to normal. I just I don't know. Every time I think about Worlds, I just have to stop myself. I'm I can't get too excited yet. We're still 4 months out, man. Not yet. Give me another couple of months, and I'll be talking up a storm on Twitter about it all day. So
I will say though, with Worlds, I went to Worlds in DC, and that's the only Worlds I've been to. But I imagine it's not dissimilar from the other places that outside of Japan. Pokemon it's certainly a phenomenon, but the card game itself, from a player standpoint, is still relatively niche in most parts of the world. What I've noticed here in Japan is Pokemon and the card game is way more a part of broad culture. So I imagine when the World Championships come here, you won't feel like you're in this microcosm in whatever, venue Pokemon has rented. Wherever you're staying, there will probably be stuff around you that is Pokemon, Friday night. You would be hard pressed in America to find a Friday night Pokemon League and have 2 whole floors of people just playing, some of which just playing for fun. That's, I don't know, not a thing in the United States, and it's crazy.
It's part of main culture, the fact that, if a celebrity would play Pokemon, most people in America would question it and look at it, but it's a common thing for celebrities out here to be playing it or to learn it or pick it up or have friends who know about it, part of subculture. It's more so of main culture in here. I think I'm actually really looking forward to Worlds to seeing what celebrities, what important people are going to pull up and check the event out. It's going to be an absolute madhouse, mark my words, in terms of getting into this event, because I don't think people have an understanding. I hope TPCI has an understanding of how crazy the demand is for this event in this country, that if events for Champions Leagues, which is a competitive, high-scale event where you have to play against thousands of people, if that draws in 30,000 applicants to play in a tournament for 3,000 people, at least times that by 5. You're looking at probably over 100,000 people who, if you asked, would you like to go to the World Championships to check it out, would instantly say yes, right?
Yeah.
And that's just people probably in the Tokyo and Kanagawa prefectures alone, right? Talk about all of Japan as well. It's not just a phenomenon strictly in Tokyo itself, right? This is a global, but more specifically a national phenomenon that is Pokemon.
Yeah. It's one of the things I've noticed here is just going into a card shop. There's tons of card shops here, by the way. It's wild. But going into any card shop, actually even just finding sealed packs to open up, everything seems to be very hard to get. And I don't think it's because they've underprinted necessarily. I think it's just because, to your point, so much demand. So if you do want to go to Worlds, try to book your stuff sooner rather than later and figure it out. I'll be interested to see all the side events that Pokemon runs this year. Especially, I don't know if Gym Leader Challenge has really taken off in Japan, but I know that that's a new format that Pokemon is supporting even more. And it would be interesting to see, hey, if they actually make that a big side event thing for this year's Worlds, how does that affect Pokemon Company in Japan and the Pokemon scene here?
I'd be interested to see how they're going to apply it. It is a little bit interesting seeing an event on TPC grounds be held by TPCI, which has been the case for World Championships for years and years now. But I know regardless of how it's run, how everything is organized, it's going to be a great event. It's going to be so awesome. The spectator pass thing worries me a little bit. Hopefully, I'd say book your trip to Japan regardless, because you should come out here with the intention of going to Worlds. And of course, make sure you, in the meantime, for the next couple of months, work on getting your internet updated and fast and speedy so that you do not lose out on the chance to do this. And make sure you invest in some good alarms that the iPhone 1's not cutting it for you, because you do not want to miss when it drops. You want to be there. You want to be excited. And Worlds is an event every single year. I keep saying this over and over again. It's my favorite event because of several reasons, but mainly there is no bigger stage than the World Championships, and the stage only gets bigger and bigger every year, and I'm excited to see what this year is going to hold. We saw the key art for it a few weeks back on the Pokemon Presents back in February.
Yeah.
now more people even know about it because it's on a direct broadcast as well. There's going to be so much hype surrounding this event. I'm excited to see what's going to happen that weekend.
I'm excited too. All right, I will throw it back over to Jake, or wherever in the pod this is going to end up being. Thank you, Ethan. It was wonderful chatting with you. It's been great hanging with you, just regardless. And drop any comments or questions on Twitter. And you can tag Ethan at Ethan Hegyi, I think is your...
At HegsterTCG,
at HegsterTCG.
yeah.
Why don't, you'll probably get the other one at some point soon. At HegsterTCG, though, if you want to direct some of those questions towards Ethan. So, all right.
And welcome back. That was an excellent interview, Sean. Congratulations, because we definitely, just listened to it, recording this podcast for sure. But Sean, with that, we've got a lot of other things to talk about here on this podcast, because there was a lot of actually good news that came out through this week. So let's get right into the first one. We kind of talked about it a little bit last week. GameStop showing off a new distribution with their new promos. We just wanted to include in there, we talked about the promo that is in there, the Lechonk and the new reverse hollow, and they finally have a different logo and stuff like that. But one of the things also that they're giving out, which I was actually able to get, is they're also giving codes for Flying Terror type Lechonk in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the video game. So you can go in there, you can ask for the code not only for the video game, but you can also ask for the card as well. Sean, I actually went to a GameStop yesterday at the time of this recording to go get at least the card. I want it. The promo card. And they said that they didn't even get it in store. They gave me the Lechonk video game code, but not the card. They said they didn't get it at all. It's not like they ran out or something like that. And it's crazy because not only did Kentucky run out, but I think around here in Kentucky, and then also when I was in North Carolina the other week, they were saying that they didn't have pre-release kits either. So I don't know what the distributors are doing with the Pokemon product as of late, but hopefully you're lucky enough to get a Lechonk.
Yeah, I mean, I assume they're out there. I assume somebody can get them, but that is pretty weird. I don't know if maybe the code is available March 31st, but maybe the Lechonk. What's weird, though? It should have been for March 31st and April 1st, and here's the reason. I don't know if anybody got emails from Pokemon or saw anything about Pokemon Universe during April 1st. Apparently, it was a big Lechonk April Fool's Day. Did you see any of that,
I did not
Jake?
see it at all. No, I was busy working.
Okay, so, and I don't know if this was also maybe in Japan, and I don't know. I don't know where I saw it. Somewhere on my Instagram, people were talking about it, but if you went to the website for Pokemon and all these other things, it was just there would be lots of Lechonks just filling up the screen, and when you would scroll through all the different new Pokemon from the new set and the new series, it would just be Lechonk, 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 Lechonk. So
that's really funny.
Yeah, and so it makes sense that they would give away the promos of Lechonk on April 1st because it was new game, new set, April Fool's Day, all that stuff in one. So
it was just great marketing altogether. Now, if everybody was able to get them, that's a whole different story. But I'll let you know. I'm going to be checking more stores here. We'll let you know next week if I was able to get it. But one thing that you're probably going to need a little bit more work to get, I would say, Sean, is the new big set that's been revealed by the Pokemon Company in Japan. You're in Japan when this revealed, actually, right?
Yeah. This came out.
This revealed during Champions League.
Yeah,
or something, right?
This would have come out. I guess April 1st would have been Saturday, which was the first day of Champions League. It was weird being here. One weird thing was I went to a store with Ethan. It says on the store Hararuya, but I think it's supposed to be pronounced Hallelujah. So that's the name of the store in Tokyo, in Akihabara. So, but we went there, and there was a bunch of people practicing for the Champions League. The next day, we were there on the Friday night. And apparently, side note, I didn't really get to interact with this human because I was checking out. I was buying cards. But Shintaro Ito swung by the store when I was there. And Ethan was like, "Hey, do you know who I was just chatting with?" And I'm like, "No." And he was like, "No, that was Shintaro Ito." And I'm like, "What?" So
oh my goodness.
So yeah, he was buying cards. But yeah, the Champions League happened this last weekend.
Yeah, if you do not know, Champions League is essentially like, I think it's like a regional.
Yeah.
In terms of the same, but their style is different in Japan, where like, if you win, isn't it if you win you automatically qualify for Worlds, or it's not the same point system that we have.
Ethan and I discussed this, so the people who listen to the interview might...
No. I was just testing you. Yeah, because we know all about it because of the interview later.
I don't think if you
on the channel.
I don't think if you win, you get an invite automatically, but it's like thousands of people. And from what I hear, you really need to get like top 16 to top 32 in all 4 that you get to play in to qualify for. It's crazy. So.
And it's also like a lottery, I believe, right?
Yes.
Or at least it used to be a lottery. So you could register, but that doesn't mean you get invited to play in these Champions League. It's very, very interesting. But again, blah, 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 interview. If you want to learn more, you can rewind back. But Pokemon Card 151, the set was officially revealed. And we talked about this earlier, how Kadabra was returning into the TCG, released by Uri Geller. If you don't know, there was a lawsuit by Uri Geller, famous hypnotist. Is that the right term? I want to say magician, but I feel like that's disrespectful to him.
I mean, yeah, he does something with hypnotism and magic and other stuff. Yeah. Entertainer. But he's a professional entertainer.
Yeah, he's an entertainer. But again, it returns Kadabra after 21 years. And there's a bunch of other cards. Again, this set, I think we talked about this a little bit when this first released a while ago. But it'll feature the first 151 Pokemon in the Pokédex. And the cards will also be in Pokédex order. So Bulbasaur being number 1, Ivysaur number 2, Pikachu being number 25, Mew being 151 as well. It contains 165 cards before the secret rare. And so the set list is, or not the entire set list, but there were several cards revealed during the Champions League stream that you may have watched on YouTube. I know I was watching it and watching Ethan also talk about the event when he was streaming it, but there's several other cards in here, and one of them that I kind of want to talk about, Sean, is Giovanni's Charisma, the trainer down at the bottom.
Okay.
It's the last card that's, kind of been revealed. It's a supporter card. It says put an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand. If you do, attach an energy card from your hand to your active Pokemon, which I think is really, really cool because we've seen kind of the both players do certain things, but usually it's like, shuffle cards in a deck, or with Belubba and Bryson, man, like milling multiple cards on both players' decks. But this one is with energies, which I don't think I've really seen before.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot. There have been other cards that allow you to attach 1 extra energy, and it doesn't specify. And also, the interesting thing about this, it's put an energy. Assuming that this has been translated correctly, it doesn't even say basic. You could attach another special.
Yeah, like your double turbo energy, you can just throw on there. I think twin energy's now rotated, right?
I believe so. It will be. Yeah.
So just your double turbos.
But you could attach a double turbo, use this, attach another double turbo. That's pretty insane, to be honest. And yeah, I think that'll be. It seems like a really cool card because it adds a little bit of it's a little bit of control and acceleration, which is a cool thing. The only thing that I would think would be important to play with this, and I want to see if people do it, is if people use something like Escape Rope or Cross Switcher with this, because what most people do is they will try to power up something in the bench because they know that their active is going to get knocked out, right? So it's like your insurance policy. But if what you can do instead is bring the thing to the bench up somehow with a Cross Switcher or an Escape Rope, get the energy off of that because it's only the active Pokemon that you can remove an energy from, and then bring back or whatever the thing that you want to destroy or kill. I don't know. It's a little convoluted and complicated, but like there is a world I think where like that strategy could be really annoying to people.
There's another strategy that I think a lot of people will utilize, Sean. If you scroll one card up, safety goggles. Remember that this is not an item card. Remember, the new errata now in Pokemon Standard format is that these are tool cards. Tool cards are their own separate category, just like supporters, stadiums, items, and now tool cards. So this tool card, safety goggles, is basically weakness policy for anyone who's been around a while. The basic Pokemon this card is attached to has no weakness. Keyword here is basic Pokemon, so it's a little bit different, a little less stronger than usual. But you look at decks like right now, like Miraidon. I don't think Lost Box really cares about it, but you look at decks like that right now that are going to be around in the format and things like that, and that, I mean, they'll probably utilize this. I feel like if Urshifu comes back in our standard, and I saw JW Kreewall Flex Daddy Righteous playing it on stream today, and he was having a lot of fun with Urshifu. If that comes back, then who knows? Maybe safety goggles is a good play to do.
Yeah, I mean,
if you play Arven.
It's interesting for something like Miraidon, and maybe there'll be some other basics that are a little beefier that this matters for. I find it a little weird because I'm like, okay, most Pokemon now do enough damage to knock out a basic. Like it's not hard to knock out the basic. So what this really does is it punishes two different types of decks that I don't think need to be punished, actually. What it does is, if anybody plays this, it punishes single prizer decks who are going to use, their one prizer to take out, a basic Pokemon like a Miraidon that's worth 2 prizes. So, like, you can't hit that for a weakness as a single prizer. And then it also punishes the evolution decks. So, like, we're bringing back EX Pokemon, and a lot of the EX Pokemon that seem pretty interesting are not basics, right? They're stage 2s even, stage 1, stage 2. I don't know. I'm not a designer, but I really would have loved to see this card have, actually, if they'd have changed it to the evolution card, Pokemon this card is attached to, like, give it the same restriction, but make it evolution. Because then it is a more rewarding thing for somebody who's taken the time to evolve into something,
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out because I feel like right now, at least in terms of our format, I know Ethan has played extensively in the formats and things like that. But I feel like we don't really know what's going to be the best decks now with rotation in Scarlet and Violet until like we have the first round of the tournament or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 more Pokemon I want to talk about actually.
All right.
I want to look at this Alakazam. Did you get a chance to look at this Alakazam, Jake?
I saw, not really. No.
Okay.
I won't lie. I was going to try to read it real quick, but I can't read that fast.
The first attack, it's a 310.
Oh, I did see this. Yeah. I did see this. Yeah. Anyways, go on. Sorry, I'll stop interrupting.
It's a 310 HP stage 2. So, like, Gardevoir EX is apparently good. So, like, cool, it's good. I don't know. It has Mind Jack. It does 90 plus 30 more for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So it can do up to 240 damage for 2 colorless, which is not nothing, right? Like, that's actually halfway decent. But the second attack is, I think, one of the most interesting attacks that I've ever seen on a Pokemon, which is for 2 psychic energies. So you gotta commit to that psychic. But you have dimensional manipulation. It only does 120, but this Pokemon can use this attack even when it is on the bench, Jake.
I think this is the first time, at least that I've seen, a Pokemon be able to use an actual attack from the bench when they're not in the active. We've seen abilities in the active, we've seen a lot of that stuff, but not the Not like the actual man, it's just crazy. I also can't wait to see this loaded in PTCGO.
I can't wait to see this break PTCG live.
Or yeah, PTCG Live, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
no,
what I
you're
meant.
right. You right. You know what's gonna happen with this card, Jake.
It's crazy.
I think this you could load this card up too, because I'm like, I assume that a choice belt will also work on this card, so you're doing 150. You know, like that's really good. You throw in a Halucha and you can two-shot anything really that has 310. You ping them a little bit of damage here. And I think something like this, there is a Trevenant. I think it's going to stay in standard. I could be wrong. But I believe there's a Trevenant that does not give up prizes when it is knocked out.
I do remember something along those lines and us talking about it, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't. I remember there's
We
a
talked
Pokemon.
about it.
It's like I
Yeah.
think it's a grass type. It looks like a tree in my brain. I don't know, but it's. I think this also signals to me, Jake. I would not be surprised if they reprint, like Clefairy doll or something in this set as part of the set.
Okay.
Because like it goes perfectly with this, right? You got to think to yourself, okay, well, it's the Pokemon 151. You think about like the very early days of the Kanto region. There was that one trainer, right? And she has a little she has a little Clefairy doll, you know, in the original
And
series.
I mean, I think that was like also one of the cards in base set.
Yep, exactly.
Like
You're
something
absolutely
along
right.
those lines too.
Yeah. So I could see this. I could see that card being printed with this. And then it becomes a question of like, cool, now how do I recycle those? And then Silene becomes like a big part of your game plan. Yeah, I think this could be really cool as an archetype. Like, super annoying because it's 310 HP. You are going to have a hard time knocking it out without weakness, right? So if you have any way to maybe heal this Pokemon a few times, make your opponent use up all of their bosses and Serenas just to knock out one of them, boom, you still need to take 4 more prizes, right? Like, oh, I love this card, Jake. I love it.
You also play the Poncho.
Oh,
Is
does the
Poncho
Poncho
still in format?
Oh, that's such a
Because
good.
the Poncho allows you not to be bossed.
Maybe I think maybe it does stay in format. I don't know. That's insane.
I have no idea. Well, let me get on TCG Player real quick and see what the Poncho mark is, because that would be really interesting. Leafy Poncho, I think this is F block. Yeah, it's F block.
Okay, so it's still
Plays
in
a
format.
supporter card from their hand. Prevent all effects of that card done to the Pokemon V Star or V Max.
Okay.
Oh, so that's not EXs. Never mind. Bad
They
idea.
thought
Bad
about
idea.
that, but still.
They thought about that. They were like, Jake's gonna think. If Jake can think of this, then we can make it, because everyone else will think of it. You know.
I still though I really love this. Maybe you even like I could even see this card being played with like a Sharon's Care engine, where you're playing whatever the biggest, beefiest, colorless Pokemon you can think of, so that your opponent can't maybe knock them out, and then every turn you use your Sharon's Care to just pick that card up, put it back down, Pal Pad, all that good stuff. Like, Jake, this is going to be I think this is going to be an actually like good deck.
I hope so.
I'm going to call it.
Because it seems like a ton of fun. It seems like a ton of fun, this idea. We'll see if it comes into fruition. You never know, especially with rotation around the corner. You know, we don't have quick ball anymore, no scoop up net, things like that. And they still have to print the Clefairy doll thing. It's been a while since they've done that. So they missed out on it entirely in Sword and Shield, because it was printed in Cosmic Eclipse in late Sun and Moon. Yeah. And then we just haven't seen anything like it since, mostly because Pokemon doesn't like cards like that, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason they didn't reprint it is, I don't know, who knows actually, but it seems like the right time. They've had those type of substitution dolls and Robo Substitute and all that for years, so, you know, what's old is new.
What's old is new, and there is something new that you can get over at the Pokemon Center We kind of talked about this because I think they're doing this with the milk carton supporter
Oh
things
yeah, the 2 deck
nowadays.
boxes. Yeah.
Yeah. But Pokemon Center has now released new double deck boxes and card sleeves. They've got 3 designs here with you. The most popular Pokemon in the trading card game, Espeon, Deoxys. It's got Ho-Oh and Celebi on it as well. Sun and Moon, Yin and Yang. On it, there's Pikachu with a bunch of other like cute little electric Pokemon, and then there's Larvesta.
The Larvesta is so bad.
There are some people that love Larvesta, and on here also there's like Frostmoth, but it's not like the Espeon Umbreon where they're both on like the cover. Like you have to open it up to see the Frostmoth, and it's just in outline. Like there's no Larvesta on it, but. There are some big time Larvesta fans, no hate over here. It's just, if I'm thinking of introducing the double deck boxes, Larvesta's not one of the first 3 Pokemon groups that I think of,
Now, are these in America? Is this the American Pokemon Center that does this?
I will say, yes, this is the American Pokemon Center. I just clicked on this link and it's taken me to the American Pokemon Center. If you want the double deck boxes in here, which I kind of recommend if you're someone that collects and plays multiple decks, you like to try out multiple decks at leagues against people, you're deciding last second what to take to a regional or something and it's the night before. These deck boxes are really cool because when we say double deck boxes, it basically means you can fit 2 sleeved decks inside of it. Each pack of the double deck boxes also comes with 65 card sleeves. I'm sorry. The double deck box holds 2 60 card sleeve decks, and it has a magnetic closure that costs $13 each. But then each pack of card sleeves comes with 65 sleeves for $8 extra. So I don't think you can. Oh, no, you can't buy them together. It's not like you get the double deck box with the sleeves. So you got to buy them a little bit separately. And then also, it's not on this PokeBeach website, but they also have play mats of the same designs. So the play mats are $25 each. The double deck boxes, $13 each. And then the sleeves are going to be $8 each. So go ahead, check that out if you want. They're quite cool, actually. Yeah. So... I like them a lot.
Yeah, I personally really like the Pikachu design. That's my favorite of these. But I know that the Evolutions are always a fan favorite.
The Evolutions are really cool because it's just like 2 different colors, the white and the blue. It's not like over the top. The Pikachu one is also cool. I like the electric Pokemon one because it's, a brighter color and it's got black on it. I'm a sucker for black and gold. Personally, I'd probably get the electric Pokemon one, but that's just me.
Jake, there's one last big piece of news. Take it away.
The big news that I would say is that local events are returning in North America, and I think the rest of the world as well. Or at least North America, I'll say. But Pokemon has officially announced the return of local organized play events, including League Cups and League Challenges. And this is happening soon, Sean. It's not like we've got to wait until next year. The first League Cups will begin on April 14th. So basically in 2 weeks. The first season is going to be ending on June 30th. And monthly League Challenges as well will begin in April. So if you do not know, maybe you joined us during the pandemic and stuff like that, Pokemon would have these more localized tournaments and things like that. If you don't want to go to regionals, if you don't want to go to like international championships, right, travel across the country and globe, you could go to your local store potentially and garner championship points through these League Challenge and League Cup tournaments. And so these are back. It was Pokemon Events Manager, which was the software to run the tournaments. It was recently shut down.
No.
Tom,
other way around.
I'm sorry.
Other way.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Tom was shut down, and then Pokemon Event Manager was brought in. My apologies, but which I think some people have some mixed feelings about. I don't really know. Well, it says in the at least PokeBeach article that the it's riddled with bugs and caused numerous issues during tournaments. So,
Yes.
wow, it sounds like PTCG Live.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, it's the new software. I've had people at my leagues too also talk about how it's like they have to use it for the pre-releases, I think, and it's been a little bit annoying, but it is what it is.
I will say in this league challenges, they're local level tournaments. They're kind of your smallest local level tournaments that garner your points, and then cups are the next highest up before you get to like a regional and things like that. And again, you get these points, qualify for the World Championships in Yokohama, Japan. League challenges will have a best finish limit of 2 in this. So what we mean by that is if you compete in 3 tournaments, right? 3 league challenges from April 14th to June 30th. You can only take your top 2 finishes. So if you got first in one, second in the second one, and then third in the third one, you only take your first and second championship points in there towards your world championship invite. League Cups also have that rule as well, so you can only get a maximum of 100 points through League Cups and 30 points for league challenges. And there's also, in terms of the placement, there's a kicker, like number of participants, and that affects how many points you get, I think. And
Well,
I don't really know
the kicker
all the
is like
specifics on that.
Yeah, the kicker is basically like if the more people there are, the lower the placings will get points. So like if you're at 5th place, but there's only 8 people, in the tournament, you're not going to get anything. But if there's 24 people in the tournament, right, then you might get some points. So
there we go. Sean's got it for you. Sean is the one that actually knows. I just play and get last, so I don't ever have to think about points in there. But
yeah, I was going to say
one of the sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to
say one of the reasons that you can one of the ways that you can find your local events is if you go to, we'll put this in the description, if you type Pokemon event locator, Pokemon's got a spot on the website where you can buy, your area, or you can type in, you can type in your area code or city or something like that. You can find places from this website of, places that are having local league, places that are having cups, challenges, things of that nature. So use that. Again, it'll be in the description or the show notes, whichever you use, if you've never heard of it before. And go play some stuff. Sean, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that the best finish limit of 2 is, I think some people were a little surprised that they kept it so low because they've waited till the end of the season basically to reintroduce these. However, this best finish limit I think is reflective of the typical amount of best finishes you might expect in a quarter. So like next year, it seems like if they keep this system, it seems like they're going to revert back to the original system, which is a best finish limit of 8 for either cups and challenges. And so they've just reduced that number given it's not starting until April in the season. I don't know. It's like, I can't imagine anyone would have been able to grind their way into a world championship invite, even if the best finish limit was still 8, given you only have 10 weeks to do it all in.
I would say, I think that the 2 is fine, and there's a couple reasons for that. One, like you mentioned, it's pretty typical, like 2 1/4. It's pretty much the same rate as it was before. But also, I think what they want to avoid is bringing these local events back. And, they made such a push on getting people, online and stuff and learning how to play the game. There's a bunch of new players. We're playing these regionals now that we're back, and we're hitting record numbers in these areas. I think Australia, this past weekend, Australia had their biggest regional ever. So I think what they're trying to avoid is putting too many in, so then like people can qualify, for worlds off their cups or challenges, or have like half of their like half or three-fourths of their points off challenges. They're trying to avoid that, because then that means people are going like all
Yes.
over to compete, and it's just a little too intense, I think, for what
Yeah.
Pokemon wants coming out of the gate.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This is basically like, hey, if you have almost all your points, cool. Like
Hmm.
you went to like 2 regionals, 3 regionals, and you have like, 70% of your points. This will probably get you over the hump, right? Great.
Yeah, this
Awesome.
will help you out.
And then otherwise, you're like, cool. I mean, I can go and experience what a competitive level event is like, even if I'm not trying to go to
Mhm.
Worlds. And to your point, Jake, it won't be so insane because it's not like there's all these people trying to get tons of points, So, yeah,
Yeah,
go
like I
and
remember one time when I was living in Indianapolis, I drove with a friend to Ohio for the day to compete in a League Cup. Like, I think they're trying to avoid
yeah.
stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, we'll see. Even before the pandemic, like back when Pokemon was, I would say, a lot less popular, like the TCG, than it is
Mhm.
even now. It was still like there was plenty of people driving all over different areas to compete just because, you
Like,
know,
I think I remember there was like this big, they called it like the Iowa tour,
hmm
where like over a weekend you could compete in like a week straight worth of League Cups over the summer to help like people push their invite and stuff like that. It's like a I
yeah,
think it's an organized thing where they had like a tournament every day, like in this area. And I remember I had a buddy that played in it and actually got his Worlds invite because he went to that, and he kind of like last second went for his final push to get enough points. So and people like traveled all over for that.
yeah. I mean, I know, just so when people know, and this comes back next year in the next season, like a lot of stores in areas, they typically do coordinate with each other to be like,
Mhm.
okay, well, let's not have overlapping cups and challenges because that's not good for anybody. Um, and then they also will try to schedule them all where they're like roughly like if one is on a Friday at one place and it'll be the Saturday and then the Sunday. At least that's what I found in New York area. So that way,
Mhm.
people who do want to travel in from like 100 miles or so out for a cup, they can stay for a couple days, go to like 3 cups, and then go back home.
And everybody benefits.
Yeah. Anywho,
I will say, if you were trying to avoid, like me, PTCG Live, it's no more. Again, Pokemon trading card game online, the old client is not being supported anymore. So you can still get on and you can still play and you can still trade and rip open old packs. You can't. I don't think you can upload. You can't upload at all Scarlet and Violet packs. But you can do it on PTCGL, and I downloaded and I started playing Pokemon Trading Card Game Live over the weekend, and I've it's not the best sample size. I've only played like 15 to 20 games, um, but it's bearable. It's bearable. I'm not going to say it's great. I'm not going to say it's good. And I still think there are a lot of problems with it, with its UI, its design. I don't really know much about the currency system. I do know that when you hit level 50 in Pokemon Trading Card Game Live, because Trust Your Pilot, the creator, Sean, that, his whole gimmick is like roasting live. You know
oh,
who
I
I'm talking
didn't.
about?
I don't. I'm not on the Twitter anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're not on the Twitter. Well, there's a content creator that's garnered a following because his whole gimmick is roasting live, right?
Okay.
And it's a good gimmick, good content strategy in my opinion. Recently just hit level 50. He's been playing for like 13 months, right? Just hit level 50 in Pokemon TCG Live. He got 200 coins for his reward for hitting level 50. That was it. Just 200 coins.
Stingy
But I
PTCG Live.
mean, yeah, and I have yet to hit in my games like a game-breaking state of like, I can't play this card. I've experienced
Sure.
literally no bugs.
Well,
But
you mentioned the Pokemon tool thing that might be
oh yeah,
weird.
yeah, yeah. Well, I haven't seen it in my game, but we retweeted it on Twitter if anybody saw apparently somebody reported and showcased in like a video that the Pokemon tool card errata, I mentioned that tool cards are now their own category. They did not apply the errata to the old cards, you know, like Choice Belt, Air Balloon. I mean, if you're playing an expanded, like they did not apply the errata to the old tools prior to Scarlet and Violet. The new tools have the errata, where their own category and stuff like that, but not the old ones. So who knows if they'll pump out an update, you know, fixing that. I haven't tried it in mine yet to see. I never like really, it didn't register until we called each other just a couple minutes ago to record this podcast, and I was like, I actually haven't tried it in my game or thought about it. So
now, question, actually,
yes.
This is totally random, actually. So yeah, to that point though, if you are practicing with the new format, Irida will not grab you a tool card anymore. Just so you know, just in general.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't grab you a tool card anymore.
If you're playing in person, also just remember that.
Yes, please.
I do wonder, Jake, the card Creme-O-Matic. In order to play it, you have to discard an item card and then flip a coin.
Yeah. So then you can't discard tool cards then.
Right. Like, is a tool card still an item? Is it a subset of an item still? Or is its own, every bit of it is its own category? It's no longer an item in any way.
Oh man, this might be a Will Post question. I don't think it's an item card at all anymore. I think it's just a trainer card at this point. I think it's like a supporter, you know. I mean, supporters used to just be under the umbrella with trainer cards, and stuff like item cards.
That's
back
true.
in like base set, but I think it's its own subset of trainer cards now. So I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so you know, those of you out there playing Mew, because Mew's still going to be good in the new format.
Yes.
Those of you playing Mew, if you throw that Creme-O-Matic down, don't think that you can discard a Forest Sealstone or a Sky, you know, any of those, and not get a judge called on you. Or like if your opponent does that, maybe kindly remind them before they start searching their deck, like, hey, wait, you can't do that. I could be wrong, so this is maybe hit up Will Post or somebody or your local judge.
Maybe just ask your local judge about it. I'm sure in their judge chats and things like that, their servers that they have talked. I'm sure they've talked about this.
I'm sure
they have.
I'm sure it's come up in the Japanese meta too, though. So, but you know, important thing. I just thought about that. I'm like, it does affect a lot of weird interactions that like before you could do a thing and now you can't. So, PSA.
If you're looking for some good decks to play and, you know, starting out post-rotation, Tabletop Village did have a post-rotation $1,000 tournament over the weekend for anyone who couldn't go to Fort Wayne, because Tabletop Village, if you do not know, I believe is in Seattle, Washington.
I believe so. Either Seattle or outside of it somewhere, yeah.
It's in that area, you know, very far away from Fort Wayne, Indiana, you know, if you know your United States map. But I know some of the good decks were Lost Zone. Lost Zone was played a lot. Lugia also made top 8. Mew VMAX played top 8. And then also Mia from the Pokemon Company. Or I don't know if Mia still works. Yeah, Mia is a TCG game designer over at the Pokemon Company. Mia played in this tournament and played Dialga Miraidon Magnezone and posted her list. And I've been playing it, and I love this deck so much. So if you see someone rocking Dialga V-Star with Magnezone and Miraidon, it's probably me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But there are some fun decks that you can play on your rotation to prepare you for the next tournament, just like how we prepare you on the Pokemon podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. Sean, you got anything else?
Nope. See you next week.
All right. Enjoy, and we'll see you next week.